Okay, cool.
I think we're live.
Sweet, cool.
Good morning.
Morning, everyone. So I'm Aden from the Cami Customer Success team. I'm joined by Hengjie.
Hi, I'm Hengjie. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Cami.
And yeah, today we're going to be going through using Cami with math and science use cases in mind. So we're going to be going through Google Classroom first, just to push out an assignment. Then we'll be going through on the student side and going through some of the tools and sort of use cases that may be relevant for your math and science classes there.
I've got some housekeeping before we get started. We're live on the chat, so if for all of those viewers that are listening in live, please use the chat to ask any questions while we're doing this presentation. Let us know if there's anything that we can point out or explain a little bit better, and we'll try and answer it live as much as we can. The other thing is these webinars that we're doing throughout last week, but also this week, they're all recorded and available on our YouTube channel. So you can rewatch this using the same link as before, or just go to our YouTube channel, hit videos, and you should see every other presentation that we've been making so far.
Yeah, so we'll be, when I go through Google Classroom today, I won't be going into it in quite the amount of detail that we have done in previous webinars, so feel free to refer back to our using Cami with Google Classroom if you have any sort of specific questions about that. Cool, okay, so I'm going to jump over to my side now. So like I said, I have sort of two windows set up here. I've set up as this one here is a teacher, and on the other side, I've set this student up as a student account here. So we're going to start out on the Google Classroom side here. So I'm going to go ahead and push out a little composite resource that I've put together for this presentation. So let's go ahead and do that. Just a reminder that in order to use this Google Classroom integration, you want to make sure that you have the Cami Chrome extension installed on both your device and the student's device. So now that we've created that classroom assignment there, we're going to go ahead and push that out to this course here. We're going to give this another name today, Math and Science. And I'm going to get that file from my drive here. You can also pull in resources from local storage if you click the paperclip icon there. Science, actually, math. Oh, it should bring it up. Here we go. Perfect. So you'll notice when you select a resource that it will give you a few different options. So if you were looking to run this as a group assignment, you could use this share one copy option. I'm just going to be exploring the default option today, which will create a copy for each of the students in the class. So let's go ahead and push that out. That'll just take a little moment. Perfect. Okay. Now I'm going to switch over to the student side now, and we can go ahead and bring that assignment up. So we can see that's appeared in the stream just now. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And just so you're aware, this having the student's name in front of this file name, that's a very clear indication that that is the student's individual copy that we're looking at here. So I'll make this full screen so we can see this a little bit more clearly. And we'll go ahead and open that up. They'll have this open with Cami option when they have the Chrome extension installed here. So just a note about that. So this is I've put together a number of different sort of resources, some related to math, some related to science, and I'll sort of go through and show you how you can use the tools to solve that. All right, perfect. So let's go ahead and open this up. So today we're going to be just focusing on the tools that are sort of most relevant for math and science. So if you're wanting a full overview of all of the tools, just refer back to the previous webinars that we've run. So first of all I want to talk about is the dictionary tool. So this very often gets used in reading classes when students encounter sort of vocab words that they're not familiar with. It can also be used in science and math as well. So if students sort of come across jargon words that they're not familiar with, what they're able to do is they can either click and drag over a word in the text or just click it outright, and it will give them that definition of the word. This is actually using Oxford Dictionary's definition of words, so it has a fairly good archive of those different technical terms that they might come across there. So if they encounter a word like this, we can easily click on that in the text and get that definition for us. Another tool that can be quite handy, especially if we're doing sort of word problems like this, is the markup tools here. So what we might do is we might have the students go through and mark out some key variables that might be relevant for this here. So we might have them come through and mark these out as they relate. 6 buses were filled, so that's another important variable. And we might even have them say come in and answer or just figure out what the actual root of the question is here by underlining that. So this could be quite good if so we now have our sort of 3 variables that we can go about answering this question with. The students could write out using the drawing tools here. So, you know, we could start sort of writing out into this space here. 6 buses and students. So something like 6 times 7, which I think is that 42? Hengjie, your off the cuff math is better than mine.
42.
Yeah. So if you wanted the students to write directly into the page, we can use the drawing tools to solve these problems. We do actually have a number of other tools which are actually a little bit better suited for that. So we can also, you know, one thing we can also do in addition to marking up these, you know, the word problems that we've done here, we might actually sort of, you know, take some comments off of the back of that there. So you might have the students sort of, you know, total number of students, you know, just so that they have some context for these word problems as well. And one really cool thing you can do actually, and this is something we'll be rolling out an implementation for in the sort of coming weeks, but you can actually, within these text comments here, and this is probably more relevant for you as the teacher, it is possible to actually embed YouTube videos. So I'm just going to take this video here, for example. If we paste this into...
New one. Sorry.
What are you doing, mate? I was just doing that as a reply to the other one, but that's okay. We can do it this way as well. So if we paste this YouTube link into this here, what we're going to do is be able to actually run this video within this space here. So if you have sort of supplemental resources that you're wanting to put in as text comments here, we can do that. And we'll be able to sort of have that actually be embedded so that you can play that clip back. So that's something that will be coming out in the next couple of weeks. I just wanted to give you guys a little preview about that because it could be relevant for the resources you push out. Another cool thing you can do is we can use video comments. So switching from math to science now, let's say we're doing a science exercise and let's say we have a number of reagents that we want the students to sort of test out in the class. So we've given them some solutions, given them some reactants, and we're sort of asking them what would happen next. So we might ask them to do a little hypothesis. I'm just going to go down to a little blank page, part of the page here, so that we can do that. So if we wanted to have the students say, look at a problem, then hypothesize about what might happen there, we can have them write out chemical reactions as well as mathematical formulas using the equation tool here. So we might have, the teacher might present an example of something we might do. So we might have, a piece of magnesium that we're going to drop into, a particular, in this example here, we'll take this one that we've already done. So we have a piece of iron and we're putting it into some sulfuric acid. So we might have the students write out that formula just to say, make their hypothesis about what might happen. Then when we actually get them to do the experiment in the class here, what we can do is we can have them record a video comment. Now the video comments, this will take the feed from your webcam there. So if we run this, we can get the students to focus this in on the science experiment that they're doing, and then they can actually record what their results are and whether their hypothesis was proved or not. So that's one little example about how we might use this in a chemistry class. Let me go ahead and sort of show you how that works with the equation tool there. So I know I showed you that example just before. So rather than having the students write directly into the page using the drawing tool, which of course is an option, we can also have them insert equation boxes that allow us to write things out with a little bit more precision here. So say if we wanted to write out a fraction problem, we can have them type something like 1/2 on the keyboard, it will automatically put the number into fraction form when we type the slash key there. So it'll put the next number in as a denominator. This also works with letters and numbers, which is how we're able to do sort of algebraic problems and also chemistry. So the way that we do these chemistry formulas is we're using subscript and superscript here. You can find these in the drop down here. Subscript is, if we just type that in even, that will bring that up. There is also a keyboard shortcut to automatically type what you have in as subscript here. So let me do an example. I'm going to do carbon plus oxygen. And if you type shift minus, it will put the next thing you type as subscript here. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to insert the little reaction line. And if we type CO and then shift minus again, we can put that in like so. So if we're looking to type subscript and superscript, this is a good way to do that here and have that rendered in the correct format. You'll find all of those symbols are available on this symbol palette here. Now that's great if we're doing sort of one-line problems. The other thing we can do is if we're doing multi-line problems, what we are able to do is we can do what I've done here, which is inserting these as formula boxes here. So when we create this with the formula tool, just note that I'll create a new one so that you have a fresh example. Let me go ahead and open this up. So what we would do is we would just create a normal text box by clicking into the page and expanding that out. And then if you go to this f of x button at the top here, that will put the next thing that you type into an equation box here. So if we were doing, I'm going to type out my classic physics example because why not? We can show each line. Next time we go down to a line, you just press the formula tool again. You press this f of x button, and it will put the next thing you type into fraction form here or into a mathematical format. Sorry, there was a question.
We had a question from the chat. What's the shortcut for superscript?
Superscript. Yeah, good question. So if you put Shift 6 in on your keyboard, that will allow the next thing to be typed as a exponent there. So I'll actually show you an example here. So if I solve this problem, actually, I should probably do that first. So say those are the variables. I type Shift 6 here, it will put the next thing I type in as a. So if I type -1 here, that will put that as superscript above that. So if we were doing this in the context of chemistry, we might want to be using those superscript options for, an ionic, say an ion. So if we're doing something like, let me just go ahead here and type in Na plus, here we go. So that might be a context in which we use that. Obviously, we can also do things like have subscript and superscript together. So that's something we can also put in here. So if you had, something else you wanted to put underneath that, you can also do it that way. So you could, if you were having the students type out the actual atomic number and mass number, you could have the superscript and the subscript for that put into that beside there. Okay, so that's the equation tool there. Now, one thing we can also do using these text boxes is we can insert hyperlinks in here. So I've shown you a way in which you can sort of put embedded YouTube videos in as text comments. If you additionally wanted to put other resources in combination with this, what we could do is we could actually insert those into these text boxes here. And you'll notice that actually this will automatically hyperlink this for us. You can see that's been highlighted from the top here. So now that we can click that and that will open up in a new tab. And I'll just close that so it doesn't start playing. Cool. Okay, so linking in outside resources, that can be a great way to have students go away, look at a resource and then come back. So I know that there are some interactive tools that you might be using for math that might be relevant for that sort of use case. Now, we can also do graphing exercises. So one thing we can do using the, where have I put it? I think it's on one of these pages. Here we are. So, one thing we can do with the stylus is we can actually come in here. So if I use the drawing tool, and if you hold down shift with the drawing tool, we're able to draw straight lines. So we can use that kind of thing to solve a problem like this, which I think from memory is this. Now, I think actually a better way to do this would be to use the line tool in this instance. The reason why is with the line tool, we can get a little bit more precise, so we can have this actually locking to particular parts of the graph here. Another thing you can do in this sort of instance, you can see that it's quite zoomed out. We can actually zoom in and draw our lines with a little bit more precision if we like as well. So there are some automatic options. So by default, you can have this automatically scale. We can also pick other zoom sizes as well if we want to get more precise when we're going in there. One thing we can do with these lines as well is if we use these 3 horizontal lines, we're able to put these in as arrows here as well. So that can help sort of complete this exercise and just get that looking a little bit better. One option we also have is dotted lines. That's a question I get quite a lot on the support channel. Sorry, was that?
Yeah,
was there
it was
another
just
question?
the dotted lines.
Ah, perfect. Okay,
Perfect.
No, I'm glad I mentioned that then. So yeah, you can break these lines up if needs be as well. Okay, just a note about if you are using these the line tool here, that if you insert a line just as is, it will give you sort of free angle. It will lock to a 30-degree increment though if you hold down the shift key. So that's how you can, if you need to draw right angle lines, that's one way we can get those sort of rendering with precision.
We do have a new feature coming, so alongside being able to press shift and locking it to every 30 degrees, we will also be releasing a protractor alongside that so that you can do sort of any limited amount of degrees.
As of right now, it locks to 30 degrees, but what Hengjie's describing is we're actually going to be able to, when you hold down shift, it will show you the angle in relation to the other line that you've created. So that will give you guys more sort of protractor functionality moving forward. That's a good point, Hengjie. Thanks for bringing that up. So we also have just a note about the keyboard shortcuts with the shapes tool here. We do also have the ability to create perfect circles. So if we hold down the shift key, we can use this to sort of create a circle like so, and you'll see that the sort of guidelines here will appear when we start generating that. So it will just give you the, so if we draw this without the shift, it will allow us to sort of, draw any kind of ellipse that we like. If we hold down shift, it will lock that so that the radius stays the same throughout. The same thing goes for the square as well. So we're able to insert perfect squares if we hold down the shift key. Again, if we just release the shift key, we're able to draw a sort of cuboid of our choosing. Okay. So I think that about covers some of the tools on the toolbar. Was there a point you wanted to raise, Hengjie?
There are a few things that we notice a lot of people using. So if you're switching between the eraser tool and some other tool a lot, you might want to consider the undo button. So in the top sort of bar, you can see that there's always an undo that's popping in and out. But in the 3-line hamburger icon, so on the screen, we also have an undo at the very bottom there. So you can easily undo and redo however many number of times. And if you're left-handed, so if you're using your left hand, you're constantly touching the tools on the right-hand side and switching between those tools, there is an ability for you to switch to the other side like we've just seen on the screen. So it's a great way to just manage that sort of accessibility, I guess.
Yeah, and definitely if you're using a touchscreen device, I find if students are left-handed, it can be quite a handy thing for them to have that on the right-hand side so that they can switch between the tools and then use their left hand on the screen to actually affect those changes.
The other thing, so we had a question, a gentleman asked, where do we find a list of all the keyboard shortcuts? So there are 2 places. There are, there's a help center, sorry, help button, and under there on the screen, you've got a list of all the keyboard shortcuts that we've got available. You can see that some of them have been disabled. So what that means is you can click on any one of them and just provide a shortcut that you want to use. So let's say you want to always use the box highlighter tool. So we can click on that and type in, let's say Shift 9, and use that as my highlighter tool. Oh, sorry, box highlighter tool now.
So if I go Shift 9, it'll automatically switch
to this dialog. You can also share these keyboard shortcuts with anyone else. So as a teacher, maybe you've produced a set of keyboard shortcuts, any other tool that you might be using.
Yeah, okay, that's a good question as well. So I guess one thing I was going to cover at this point now is how you can use the split and merge tool to bring together custom resources here. So one thing we're able to do is we can go up here to the menu. If you click split and merge, it will bring in the file that you're currently working on. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So this can be a good way if you have a number of different resources in your drive that you're wanting to, say, merge together, or you're wanting to make some small edits. So I know, for example, when I was putting together this assignment myself, that a lot of these resources that you get online, automatically they come with the answer key included. So what I did to remove those was, if we go in here to the worksheet, we're able to either delete off any pages that we want here. So if we didn't want this page at the end, we can just delete that. Just a note that it won't commit any of these changes to the document until we export. So don't worry about messing up your original copy here when you're sort of making these changes. You can always just close out of the window, and it will it won't affect that actual document there. So say we could either delete those pages off if we had answer keys at the end. What's often a better idea, though, is sharing those documents off so that we have those saved separately. So say if we had the answer key for this worksheet, we might want to save that actually as a separate file to our drive so that we then can refer back to that when we're marking. So if you drag a file to the row below and hit export, it will export this page as its own PDF. Another note about that is we can also use this to bring in snippets from other resources. So we're able to, for example, bring in Google Docs files, slides files, also sheets and drawings. So we can bring in that kind of content into our lessons as well. So
images.
Images as
GIFs.
Well. So yeah, I don't know if it supports chain conversion on the actual images itself, though.
Not yet.
Not as of yet. So we couldn't bring in a direct, say, a JPEG or a PNG directly into Kami as of right now with the split and merge. We would just have to first load that in Kami so that it converts to a PDF, and then we would bring that in using split and merge. But for example, if we had, so I don't actually think I have a doc file on hand here. Let me see if I've got something. No, they're all PDFs. Okay, that's a pity. At any rate, we can use this sort of screen here to bring in other resources as well. So let's say I wanted to bring in a page from this resource. I can select that from the options, and when I load this up, it will, if I go back to the split mode, all of those pages will be accessible in the row most bottom to this page here. So I can then take those pages, bring those up here, and I could include that in this exercise, and then when I export, that will include this page. One last note is that this can actually be used if you have a particularly large textbook file. We can use that to sort of break up a textbook into sort of little chunks that we're able to parcel out to the students, maybe exercise by exercise. And just one last point about these extended tools. If there are any paper resources that you're looking to bring through into Kami, I would recommend first running those through the OCR tool once you have the PDF for that. What the OCR tool will do is it will scan through a document. So let me just find something to scan. Let's just take this file. So we'll just run this back-end process on our server here. And once it finishes, what it will do is it'll embed all of the text into the PDF there. So if you're ever having any difficulty selecting the text on the page, this is something you can use for that. And then you can open that directly up into Kami or save that back through to your drive.
I want to just bring up one point that Aden made about deleting answers, or we have some teachers using Kami, as Aden mentioned earlier, about how using it with whiteboarding exercises.
Yes.
And one of the cool features about the shapes tool is you can fill it in completely. So instead of just having a stroke size of say 1, we can select fill, and if I go and drag out a box here, you can see I'm able to block out a bunch of text on this page. So if you've casted your screen up onto as sort of like a digital interactive whiteboard, you can use this as a way to hide the answers first, and then once they're completed the exercise, delete it afterwards to show that answer.
Definitely. So let's say, for example, we wanted to delete off some of this content here. What we could do is, if we create a filled white square, we're able to insert that in over the top of this text, and we can effectively hide that from the document here. So this would still be an object that you could go in and select. But what you can do is, if you've inserted anything like this, or even if you've inserted images there, so for example, we might say if we didn't have these graphs in the exercise. Let me scroll to the end here, and I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so that we can see this a little bit more clearly. Say if we were going to bring in, I believe I saved this to my drive. Here we are. So let's say we wanted to bring in a graph of our own. We can go ahead and insert that in, and we can plonk that down into a space like this, and then have the students complete their graphing exercise as well. So I'm just going to put this. Didn't exactly put this in the best place, but yeah, you get the idea though. You'll be able to sort of insert that on any part of the document, and we can resize that as we need to. So if I drag out this corner here, we can make that bigger, we can make that smaller. So if you don't already have sort of these graphs included in the exercise, we can also go and pull those from Google. One other thing, and I realized that I may have skipped over this when we were doing the comment tools earlier on. So Hengjie was mentioning about how some math teachers like to use this space as a kind of digital whiteboard. So if you go to the end of any document, you're able to insert in extra pages. So we have a number of different options. We have blank pages, we have lined pages, probably grid pages would be quite relevant in certain cases. So what we can do is we can create a blank space like this at the bottom of the worksheet. And if we use one of these comment options here, so the screen capture comment, what we're able to do is record what's happening on our screen. So before, when we used the video comment, that was taking the webcam here. Now, if we wanted to demonstrate how a particular equation or exercise was completed, what we can do here is we can create one of these screen capture comments, and you'll notice that we have the option to share our audio as well here. So when we do that, we can then, use this space as a whiteboard, and then, talk through the exercise that we want to go through with the students. So we might, for example, do a physics equation with the students and talk them through, each step of how they would solve a problem. Or you might do this with a science class and sort of talk through a presentation that you are wanting them to go over. And then what's neat about this is once we save this clip onto the document, the student can then refer back to this. So if we're editing on the master copy, when we push this out to the class, each student in the class will have this video on the worksheet that they can then refer back to later on.
We had a question come up. So the question was, can you show us how to do mass atomic number and element symbol notation? So if...
Do you want to go ahead and do that?
Yeah.
So do that in the equation tool, yeah.
Use the equation tool. So I've made the font size pretty big, and clicking anywhere on this page, I can type, so HE for, say, helium.
That's the nice easy one.
And then by pressing Shift 6, that takes me up to the superscript. So it means that I can type in 4 here. I also have subscripts, so if I type sub, you can see this is available here. And if I click on it, I can also type, say, 2. So that's one of the ways you can use Kami to do any kind of, I guess, chemical notations. It is modeled after a scientific calculator. We've worked with a chemistry teacher in the past to make sure that it does it does all the symbols that they need. But if there's ever any symbols that's missing or that you really want, flick us an email. We're more than happy to add them. It's pretty easy to add it as well.
Yeah. Definitely. And we had another question that came up about using or sort of seeing the students work real time. Now, I'll sort of show you how this works in Google Classroom, as well as sort of how you can access this from your Google Drive here. So let me jump back over to the teacher side for a moment. And if we go here to the exercise that we pushed out, we can click here to open this up. We can see that 2 students have had the work assigned to them. So we'll go ahead and click on that. You can see we have 2 students in this class, me and Hengjie. So we'll go ahead and open up my work.
Really small class.
Yep. Don't you wish your classes were that small? So we can see I've made a start on the assignment at least. So we can, if I make any changes here, let me just jump over to this side. I'll go to the first page so it's a little bit easy to see. We should see those changes pop up. Yep. So there's a lag of a couple of seconds, but it is fairly real time in the way that it syncs up here. So we can see changes as they're made by the students. We're also able to jump in here and do intervention if we need to with the students. So if we needed to, So if we need to jump over and do that kind of work with the students, we're able to check in and see how they're doing. Yeah, and actually this is a good chance to show you that you do actually get updates. You can toggle these browser updates as well, just from your notification settings. But yeah, when students make comments on a document that is shared with you, you actually get a notification about that. So that's one way that you can also check in with the students.
There's a few other things that I'd like to also mention. The first thing is if you've got a group project. So let's say you've got a group of 5. What we'd recommend is fan this out so that every kid gets their own copy, but elect a group leader in this group of 5. And then on the screen here, if you've got a bunch of people all working on the same document, to really quickly get a sense of who did most of the work, you can actually tap on this, their icon, and it will turn on and off their annotations. So you can see that I've been doing that here. And it will just show it and hide it. The other thing is, for the group assignments here, to share the document out, all you have to do is click the share button, click upload, and uploads it, and then you get as a student leader or group leader, you get a link that you can then go and share with everyone else on the document. If this is a Google Drive document, then all the changes that these kids are making are also automatically saved back to Drive, which means you also have different versions of that file. So if you ever want to go back in time because someone did something, I don't know, bad to the file or ruined the file in any way, you can always go back in time and restore those versions.
Yeah, that's right. And that's just the standard version history that you can find in Google Drive there.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Right. I think we probably have covered everything. Maybe one last thing that's worthwhile mentioning is we know if you're doing lots of math and science, you're grading a lot of stuff right all the time. So you can use the pen tool, but if you're wanting to maybe if you're a little bit slow at typing,
or you're trying to get through a lot of work, a lot of different student submissions, and you need to go quick.
You can use the dictation tool, so voice typing here. So Aden?
Yep. So if you click this button, hello, my name is Aden. Still doesn't know how to spell my name. But you can see it takes everything that I'm saying. It's Hayden even, that's a new one. It takes everything that I'm saying through the microphone and does its best to resolve that into text there. So this can be a quite good way if you need to just jot down quick notes in the margins as you're marking. This can be a good way to sort of jot that down directly onto the page.
The other, I guess, tip here, and I know we're going all around our annotation tools, but there is also the ability to use the select annotation tool. And it means that if you've drawn a lot of things, let's say you've got a constellation map and you're drawing a bunch of stars and you want to move these stars around, you can just select a bunch of your annotations like you see on the screen, and what Aden has done is he's able to group all of them together and move them around. There's also a copy paste button, so you can easily make a lot of different copies. So if you've drawn a really beautiful star for your constellation, you want to have 50 of them, then you can do that.
Yeah, it's also good if you're running out of working space here. Excuse me. What we can do is we can copy, if we're running out of space in this section here, we can copy paste our answer down onto some blank pages that we insert so that we can continue our answer there, and we can just label that and refer back to that. You might even put a comment next to that as the student saying that your answer is further down on the page. So yeah, I think that about covers everything that we're going to go over today. Were there any questions, any last questions that we might be able to answer from the chat? Let me just have a scan through here.
Someone asked, will these webinars be available after the live session have been finished? And the answer is yes. So we have webinars that we've recorded. They're all available using the same link that we've been sending out to everyone. And so you can use that. You can share it out to other people. That will always go back to the recorded webinar we've got. We've got recorded webinars from all of last week to here. Tomorrow we're doing one on special education. Yesterday we did one on ELA and history and social studies. And we've also done webinars about all the different, learning management systems that we support. So Canvas, Schoology, Google Classroom. But even if you're not using one of those, you're using maybe something proprietary, we also have sort of videos that we've done for that.
Yeah. If you're using a different learning management system than the ones we've mentioned, I would recommend watching that first clip that we did on using Kami with the free version. That includes a method of how you can use Google Drive sharing links to essentially attach that onto any LMS assignment, and you should be good to go with that. Okay, perfect. Well, thanks for being such a great audience as always, guys. And yeah, let us know if you've got any more comments and feedback on some of these features. We'd be delighted to hear if you guys have any input. Yeah.
So we are available on our email, so support@kamiapp.com, but also you can look up all of the things that we've sort of mentioned so far on help.kamiapp.com, which is our knowledge base.
Yep.
Great.
Awesome. Have
Thank
a great
you so
day,
much.
guys.
Good night.